Now let's take a look at the safety protection requirements for the operator when carrying out an engine repair. Overalls protect against contamination caused by caustic, toxic or chemical products. Safety shoes equipped with a metal toe cap protect the toes if an object falls or is dropped. Sealed gloves protect the hands against dangerous substances, cuts and burns. Safety goggles prevent splashes and particles from getting into the eyes by protecting them from the front and the sides. Wearing all of these safety protections is mandatory for all operations carried out on an engine. It is essential to strap the vehicle to a lift when removing the engine gearbox assembly. Each vehicle must be strapped in a specific way to prevent it from falling off the lift. You must refer to the technical documentation to find out about the special procedures involved. Now let's look at the special safety information for handling used mineral engine oil. When the engine is running, the oil collects metal particles. Used mineral oil must never come into contact with the skin or the eyes. Prolonged, repeated contact with the skin causes dryness and irritation, which can develop into skin disease. Used mineral oil also contains low-level carcinogenic pollutants. To prevent all risks, it is essential that you wear sealed gloves when carrying out an operation. Now let's turn to the special safety guidelines on handling elastomer seals containing fluorine. Elastomer seals containing fluorine are used principally on the rocker cover and other covers. When an elastomer seal is subjected to temperatures greater than 400 degrees Celsius, it breaks down into highly corrosive oxides. These corrosive products can attack the internal tissue of the human body, and extensive treatment may be necessary as a result. If you should come into contact with one of these corrosive substances, it is essential that you report to the emergency treatment center as quickly as possible. In this section, we covered the following points. The safety protections required when carrying out an operation on an engine are overalls, safety shoes, protective eye goggles, and sealed gloves. It is essential to strap the vehicle to a lift when removing the engine gearbox assembly. Used mineral oil contains low-level carcinogenic pollutants and must never come into contact with the skin and eyes. An elastomer seal, which is subjected to temperatures greater than 400 degrees Celsius, breaks down into highly corrosive oxides. Let's have a look at the guidelines relating to engine cleanliness. Particles must be prevented from entering into the various engine air, coolant, oil and petrol or diesel pipes. When removing a flexible or rigid pipe, it must be immediately blanked off using plugs. Let's look at the special information relating to high-pressure diesel injection engines. Tiny particles of dust, made up of just a few microns, can cause incorrect operation of components and leakage. When removing part of the high-pressure injection circuit, it is essential to adhere to the following guidelines. Click on the flashing components. Cleaning any of the areas which could cause contamination of the injection system must be done with fresh cleaning product and a clean brush that is not losing its hairs. Compressed air must be used to blow off any excess cleaning solution and any residual particles. The use of high-pressure cleaning tools is prohibited as they cause damage to the injection system and the electrical connections. After opening the high-pressure fuel circuit, all apertures must be plugged using blanking plugs available from the parts department. All used blanking plugs must be thrown away after they are used once. Before carrying out any operation, it is essential to refer to the technical documentation specific to each engine type. When removing the engine gearbox assembly, the appropriate lifting system must be used to fit the engine onto its support. Two lifting methods are usually used. Lifting beams to take the engine out from above. Special supports which allow the engine to be removed from underneath the vehicle. Once the engine is removed from the vehicle, it must then be fitted onto its support. Each support has special locations for securing the engine in place. In all cases, refer to the technical documentation. Certain components to be removed must be marked so that they can be refitted in exactly the same place and in the same position. You must observe certain precautions when marking the components so as not to damage them. It is essential that you use an indelible marker pen and not a metal instrument. Click on the marker pen to find out which components are to be marked. You must mark the rockers or tappets, the inlet and exhaust valves, the bearing shells, the valve springs, the pistons, gudgeon pins and piston rings, the connecting rods and the bearing caps, the camshaft bearing caps. In this section we covered the following points. Cleaning engine components involves plugging the flexible or rigid pipes. When removing part of the high-pressure injection circuit, it is essential to adhere to the specific guidelines. When removing the engine gearbox assembly, the appropriate lifting system must be used to fit the engine onto its support. To mark the engine components, the use of an indelible felt marker pen is essential. No metal instrument is to be used. Now let's take a look at the guidelines to be observed when choosing the type of engine oil. The engine oil lubricates and reduces the friction between the engine's mechanical components. Engine oil complies with specific standards. Engine oil must have the following properties. Evacuates metal particles in suspension. Prevents the formation of sediments. Does not foam. The engine oil must work hard when the vehicle is being used. The oil becomes contaminated with metal particles and sediment and thus loses its original properties. The engine oil must be replaced periodically or when carrying out an engine repair. You should refer to the technical documentation and to the maintenance service booklet for the vehicle to find out about replacement frequency. Used engine oil must never be disposed of in the countryside. The engine oil is classed by grades depending on its viscosity. Click on the oil container. Viscosity is the resistance to flow. The higher the viscosity grade, the harder the flow. Here are two grades. The first, followed by the letter W, relates to the viscosity of the oil when cold. The second is for the viscosity when hot. You should refer to the technical documentation for the vehicle to find out which oil type to use based on the engine type. In this section we covered the following points. The engine oil lubricates and reduces the friction between the engine's mechanical components. The engine oil must be replaced periodically or when carrying out an engine repair and must never be disposed of in the countryside. Engine oil is identified by grades relating to its viscosity when hot and cold.